It's now official. Cardano just announced another partnership. Now, people like to say, well, why even care about this as of right now? ADA, it's down, it's below 20 cents. Who cares about this? This is a bunch of nonsense. But I disagree with that because, sure, this hasn't really done much of the price charts, but I think this could affect Cardano for the long term. Now, I want to first just clarify I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my mindset, and nothing I say is financial advice. But the Cardano Foundation recently made a post saying how they are partnering with something called Reef Data to record its payment flows transparently and auditably on Cardano using something called Reef. Now we have to think about this. I get it. It may sound a little bit complicated, but long story short, if I just want to simple things down, through this, Cardano is further emphasizing its role in the global trade and finance space. The reason why I think this could matter is because if we take a look at it, let's think about this. Doesn't Stellar have a very heavy emphasis when it comes to global trade and finance? Yeah, it does. Ripple does as well. For quite a while, there's really nothing competing with those two. But Cardano, people like to say, well, how can it compete with that? But now it's kind of showcasing that it could maybe, to a certain extent, do that, right? Just because it's further kind of showcasing its capabilities in the sense of, or should I say in the aspect of global trade and finance. So yeah, sure. I mean, ADA is down, as of right now, but it's really nothing new. It's really nothing different. I just don't mind waiting for years anyways. So this is all going to be background noise to me eventually. It's kind of like Odysseus in the movie The Odyssey, which I recently watched. Okay, he went through that journey and, spoiler alert, right? He ended up making it back home. But I'm saying when it comes to, let's say in the case of this space, because I don't mind waiting for years, what goes on somewhere in between there, it's just all background noise to me eventually. What I focus on is the fundamentals, and ultimately I'm not worried or concerned when it comes to Cardano just because I'm seeing new partnerships and I'm seeing improvements. So again, when they recently announced a partnership in the case of the Cardano Foundation with something called Reef Data, that right there, I think showcases to me that even at a time like right now, in 2026, the Cardano Foundation is not stopping. They're continuing to innovate and continuing to have more partnerships. This is already on top of having a partnership with the Brazilian Olympic Committee, by the way, which has an aspect of AI. So it already kind of strengthened its AI narrative through that. Now they're trying to explore a different market, which is global trade and finance. Through its recent partnership, arguably, I think it's kind of showcasing how it could make an impact there. Now, people like to say, well, this can't compete with Stellar. Well, why not? Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Stellar, but at the same time, the Stellar blockchain, okay, it's fast, but isn't Cardano also fast? People like to say, well, Stellar is established. Well, isn't Cardano also established? Don't get me wrong, I'm still a fan of both projects, but I'm just comparing it, right? So a lot of the traits that I do see when it comes to Stellar, I see it here too. When people like to say, well, Stellar's, shown historical reliability. Well, Cardano, apparently ever since 2017, the uptime has been 100%. So in terms of reliability, it's there. In terms of, the reliability of it as a layer one blockchain, it's also fast. It's also scalable. So when people like to say, well, this can't compete with Stellar, again, why not though? As a layer one blockchain, I feel like Cardano actually can compete with some of the more famous players out there in the space of global trade and finance. So Cardano is slowly but surely expanding its sort of narrative towards many market sectors out there. What does that mean? There's more buckets to collect the raindrops. You know what I mean? The more buckets out there, the more rain it can collect, right? In a sense where if let's say that market sentiment were to return back in again, if let's say the market were to recover, guess what? Now Cardano has many narratives. It has multiple pathways. It's like, for instance, Walmart, they sell a bunch of things, right, at Walmart. It's kind of no different here. Cardano is just kind of trying to explore many different things. So if let's say someone walks inside Walmart, they can get this, they can get that, they can get, a bunch of stuff, right? So Cardano, I think, is taking somewhat of the same approach where if the market were to recover, what's going to happen? People who maybe think about AI, maybe they might take a look at Cardano. People who take a look at the global trade and finance space, maybe they might take a look at the aspect of this when it comes to Cardano. Maybe someone else takes a look at an aspect when it comes to, I don't know, let's say games or whatever. Maybe they can take a look at Cardano too, because Cardano, again, fundamentally scalable, fast, and the gas fees are not an issue. allegedly. So it has these multiple pathways that it can kind of grasp, right? So I'm not concerned. Now, people like to tell me, why even care about this? Like, for instance, sometimes people like to ask me why I am even still holding despite the market not doing the best. They like to say, well, aren't you worried that this could go down? Well, here's the thing. I'm totally aware that, yes, it could go down farther. I have no way to control that. But I'm not necessarily worried about that because I am still holding. And in a sense where, because I'm holding for years, right? Whatever goes on in between, like I mentioned before, it's not necessarily a big concern to me anyways because it ends up being background noise eventually moving forward. It's like, for instance, let's say I collect t-shirts and I'm a t-shirt collector, let's say, and for whatever reason, my mindset is to hold every t-shirt that I have for like 2 decades or whatever, for whatever reason. Let's just use that as an example, right? If that is the case, would I really care what happens in the third, fourth, or fifth year? No, not really, because my mindset is waiting for 2 decades anyways, in this hypothetical. So when it comes to this space, if I don't mind waiting for years, yeah, okay, sure, in between I could see ADA go below 20 cents, go around 16 cents, whatever. But eventually that type of stuff just becomes background noise to me anyways, if my mindset is for the long term. If my mindset is for the long term, my kind of understanding is that, okay, things may be down, but I feel like it's unrealized until, of course, I exit, which then realizes all of it. But again, it just feels like all unrealized to me anyways. So I don't mind holding. And again, my mindset is years. If my mindset is like, oh, only a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or a couple of months or whatever, then I wouldn't want to be in this space just because, bear markets, they could last for quite a while. Market downturns, they could last for quite a while. Some projects out there don't make it, right? So if my mindset is for the short to medium term, then I wouldn't want to be in this space. But because I don't mind waiting for quite a while, this is not something that is necessarily of a concern to me. Just because whatever goes on in between, it's not necessarily such a big worry, personally in my perspective. Just in my case, right? I can't speak on anyone's behalf. But also on top of that, if I take a look at Cardano, people like to tell me, well, when it comes to ADA, it's really cooked. Here's the thing. It's pretty much kind of stabilizing a little bit. And I know it could go lower, but I'm just saying it's kind of stabilizing at around 15 or 16 cents as of late. In a sense where, okay, let's say ADA goes to around 10 cents. Let's say it goes down, right? It still doesn't change the fact that we're approximately 7 times away from $1, in which we saw around $1 last year. So again, if ADA even goes lower than right now, it almost doesn't really matter too much to me anyways, because we're still so low compared to $1. Okay, maybe it goes to 10 cents. 10 cents is 10 times away from $1. Yeah, okay, then it could go lower in that sense. But still, the journey from right now to around $1 is around 7 times. If it could just go back there, which wasn't even that difficult anyways, when it comes to ADA, if it could just go back there, I have nothing to complain about. So because I'm dollar cost averaging approximately once a month, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, even if it were to go lower, it doesn't concern me just because we're still so low compared to $1. That's kind of my mindset. So if it could return back to there, I'm not going to complain about anything. That's just my mindset. So in the meantime, when I see Cardano, or should I say the Cardano Foundation, still having new partnerships in 2026, I find that quite legendary given the market conditions. And again, the whole market is pretty much down, but Cardano, they're just constantly trying to improve when it comes to the Cardano Foundation. So I find that very respectable, and it's not necessarily concerning because I just don't see what's wrong with it, fundamentally speaking. It just had the recent Van Rossum hard fork happen for it, which brought a lot of security upgrades, I suppose, right? It made it a lot more secure. And that could very well actually help allow Cardano to have the foundation to, again, allow for something called Laos to hopefully come into mainnet moving forward. And Laos is actually going to bring tremendous scalability when it comes to Cardano. So there's a lot of things happening as of late. The price isn't doing the best, but I don't mind waiting. And as long as I still see the project, have improvements happen for it, then I just don't mind waiting. And I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very wonderful and fantastic day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.